Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. You're all very, very welcome to the Sunday night RedFellas podcast on Grizz Khan TV to talk all things Liverpool. Hope you're all very well. Hope you're all keeping warm if it's cold, cold if it's warm, or just stable. It's pretty cold where I am. I don't know. I think, I don't need to ask Conroy about Scotland. It's
Yeah,
always
yeah.
say,
That's a given, mate. That's a given.
that's a given. But Errol seems to be in half sleeves, so he's okay where he is. Even down in Scousland, up in Scousland for me. Uh, how you doing, guys? Well, I'll ask the usual guys how they're doing. We've got a new face. I must introduce the new face today. Welcome, Cav. Welcome to the Red Fellas. Thank you very much for coming out at last minute. We won't say who pulled out last minute, but someone did pull out the last minute. But very welcome, my friend.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome. Yeah, excited to be here on the Red Fellas. It's a bit of a privilege to be here. Like you say, last minute step in, but I hope to aid your guys' show and do it a bit of justice,
Aid our therapy. That's what it is.
Yeah,
We're a Liverpool community, and we get together on Sundays and win, lose, or draw, as it seems every week. Currently, we get together and we discuss the club that we love, and we will continue to love. Ladies and gentlemen, there is over 150 of you in here. I would really, really appreciate a like. That would get things going, get us in the mood, get us cheered up a little bit. We all need to help each other in these situations. Definitely, most definitely. First and foremost, I must give a shout out to my sponsors, my channel sponsors, of course, FUT Card for all your custom made football cards, banners, you name it. Let's get this up on the screen. I've just completely forgot to do it beforehand, but it's never too late, as they say. Check them out, guys. Go and check them out. You can get prints. Darwin Núñez is about to come good, so that'll be a good print to get. Obviously, if you're into sort of old historic prints of any goals, the Aguero goal, the Kenny Dalglish goal, ask for it. Custom made banners, custom made prints, and custom made football cards. Select your design amongst so many. These are some of the best sellers. I tell you what, the quality is fantastic, as you guys know from the one I had made for myself. Go check them out. If you type in Red Fellas in the discount code, you even get a 15% discount. And if my explanation on how to work this website isn't good enough, just type in chat with us, ask them anything you want, and there's someone always there to help you and guide you through the very simple process. Go and check them out. Fantastic website, yourfutcard.com. All right, lads. It is now officially the worst start since Brendan Rodgers to a Premier League campaign. I titled it, and I didn't mean to sort of clickbait the title, but some may have misinterpreted it as clickbait or whatever. But are we in crisis? Conroy, how would you look at it?
I don't know if we're quite in crisis mode yet, Chris, but it's not a one-off anymore, is it? And I don't want to get into the brunt of it right now because we're trying to have a slow build up here. But for me, it's I don't see the solution right now, and this is the thing, because in my head it's like you're trying to play away with the tools that can't do that. You're basically trying to do a job with tools that aren't adequate now, and that doesn't mean throw them out or anything like that. But we've said this a couple of weeks now. You know, the international break was literally just a pause on saying the same things about adaptability. And how we're trying to do things, it's not working with the team we've got. Like it's just not working. So from that perspective, I'm worried because I think we're going to keep trying to do the same thing with the players we've got, and I'm sure that'll maybe work out in some games. But having said that, we've won 2 games out of 7 against Bournemouth anomaly, and the other one was a lucky result against Newcastle. In the dying seconds. So I'm worried. I'm not quite in crisis mode yet, but with Arsenal, Man City coming up, that box will probably be ticked off very soon.
Yeah, talking of Arsenal, we've got our resident Arsenal troll fan, super fan, call him what you want. He's very annoying. but he still supports the channel, which is amazing. He has Grizz, who is top of the league Arsenal to replace Liverpool as challengers to City? You're definitely on top of the title, mate. Can't argue with that.
I think today Grizz showed that come on, Arsenal lost to that Manchester United team, so let's put that into perspective. So that just shows you the gap with Man City. And I think when Man City play Arsenal, they'll come back down to earth, because that's just the truth. Just wanted to add that team that got absolutely pummeled today beat Arsenal. So
we got our first top super chat. It says, can't lie, the FUT cards would perform better than us.
I've been training a lot recently. I think I might get a game at this rate.
Oh my god. Hi Steve.
Hey mate, how are we?
Yeah, how are we?
We're trying to get there, aren't we? And you lads will help sort that out tonight. So, well, I hope so anyway.
Yeah, it is what it is. Steve, we spoke about sort of the break coming at a wonderful time for us. We spoke about it will give a chance to refresh the minds, the bodies, the spirits of not only players, but coaches and fans alike. Nothing seems to have changed going according to that first game back. And I mean, nothing. Why?
Well, teams around us have improved. I think there's certain teams that you saw it yesterday with Brighton, we saw it with Fulham. They've got an athleticism we seem to struggle to match. We're not winning any battles in midfield at the moment. We're not pressing in midfield properly at the moment. The back four can't win a ball seemingly to save their life. But there's some real big concerns at the moment for whatever it is we're trying to do. I'll stop short at saying we've been found out, but let me give you an analogy. If you create a computer and you don't do anything with the specification in 5 years, your competitors will catch you up and possibly bypass you. I think we've lost the plot a little bit. There's no confidence. The system isn't working particularly well. But I think some of the teams in the Premier League in the summer have spent well and built different projects and understand how to play against teams that press you high, like we're trying to do. And the press isn't working, and it's... The midfield's dead. The midfield's absolutely dead at the moment. It's being overrun week in, week out. Now, is that a freshness thing? Possibly. 63 games last season, played every single game that you can play. And I was thinking today, and I'll finish up with this little bit. A friend of mine once wrote an article about semi-pro football where you get a team of players together and you get one shot at the Holy Grail, which can be promotion to professional football. And when it doesn't work, you lose your momentum and you lose the capacity to do it again. How much is playing 63 games taken out of this team? How much is chasing Manchester City for 5 years or 4 years, 5 years taken out of this team? You can't go to the well and expect to get something out of it every single time for that amount of time when you're running players blood to water, which is what we did last season. So there are a number of issues at the moment, but whatever it is, guys, we just don't appear to be getting it, and we're absolutely dead in the middle of the park.
We very much so are. I just want to bring this up, just sort of into sort of consideration where we're at, Errol. Comparing the 2014-15, which was the last time, which was the last season of what's his face?
Brendan.
I don't remember his face. Brendan. Yeah, what's his face? Brendan. Yeah, it's grim reading, Errol. It's grim reading, but we must compare and contrast and kind of, obviously, because if it's the worst start since then we have to talk about it. Even though I have still faith that we won't end up like that team or sort of that scenario with Brendan leaving, it's still grim reading, isn't it, Errol?
Yeah, I hadn't even looked at that table, to be honest with you, mate. It is. It's a hard one to take, to be fair, because I listened to everything that Steve was saying then, and I think he's nailed it. And I think a lot of us, in terms of our expectations, were getting the available players back to us of the quality that we expect, getting that midfield where the majority of us would probably say that's probably Klopp's big game midfield. If he needs to go to the well, so to speak, to use Steve's phrase, getting the likes of Henderson and Thiago next to Fabinho is probably the immediate answer for us in this season. And even that hasn't seemed to be enough based on yesterday's evidence. There wasn't enough control in the game for us. And I think, yeah, there's a lot of game time where you're thinking to yourself, you know what, we have put in a lot over the last couple of seasons to get to where we have and reach the heights that we've done, but we're not playing City every single week. I don't want to feed into the fact that, we was that close last season. It doesn't make sense for me to say that we was that close, but our drop-off has been more significant than other teams that have been promoted, because the distance between being promoted and then getting into the top 10 or the top 6 in the Premier League is such a much more of a gap than us going from second, dropping down to mid-table. So there's something else that I can't put my finger on for the life of me to actually be able to identify what it is at this moment in time. But I just can't see that other teams now have managed to upgrade and overtake us, and we've become stagnant. I don't think it's a stagnation from us. It's been a massive decline, and in that decline, I actually don't know how best to sum it up in, because there's so many areas that have fell from the heights that he was last season, and we'll probably go through them in a lot more detail during the next hour. But as a whole, the whole engine, the whole motor, the whole vehicle right now is moving like we've put fucking diesel in a petrol, and it just won't get out of the garage anymore. That's literally that's the way we're moving at the minute, and it's just hard. It's hard to take, bro, I swear.
Cav, I want to bring your attention to a super chat. Jack of all spaces sends, appreciate the support, my friend. He says, very damning to hear a manager of Klopp's pedigree saying we didn't know how to play because we didn't know what to expect. Shambolic comment, he says. I think he's referring to sort of Jurgen Klopp alluding to sort of not knowing how they're going to set up because they were under a new manager in terms of personnel or tactics. But do you get the frustration? Should we have been more prepared?
Yeah, look, we have to acknowledge when people pick out these comments from Klopp's post-match interviews, even pre-match press conferences, comments in isolation can often come across differently to how he means it. But if we take this comment on face value, it's a little bit concerning, because I think we could all, looking into the game, have a good idea as to how Brighton might play. I certainly didn't think they was going to move away from the style of play they've been playing this season. But there are things that he could be correcting, set up play from set pieces, and that maybe have been tweaked. So there probably is some truth in it, but I wouldn't be so concerned about that, because I don't think that's what cost us a draw in this game. I just think it was simply the whole team for Liverpool not playing up to their usual standards. I don't think the fine details really caught us out, to be honest, because I felt like we had enough still to win that game. So,
yeah, Conroy.
Can I just add a comment on that, Grizz?
Yeah, which can.
The one thing that surprises me about that, not Cav's comment, Klopp's comment, is obviously it's not nothing we plan for oppositions, but I've got to be honest, I'd say one of our criticisms that we've all agreed is at times we do just say we'll play our style and it'll overcome them, and we became predictable FC. So I don't know if he did know what De Zerbi was going to do, but I don't know if he would have changed it anyway, because let's be honest, that's one of the criticisms this season is he's been found out stuff last year, but we've not adapted ourselves against the same issues, whereas other teams, I keep mentioning it, like City stuff, even lower teams, have adapted to problems last year. So I don't even know if that's a strength of ours, to be honest. I'd say from what I've seen, it's not, because teams have a blueprint how to beat us. So it's no like, one of the biggest things we're probably going to speak about tonight is we don't adapt. So for him to say that confused me, because yes, I'm sure we'll look into, we have a tactical analysis of opposition, but I would not say that's one of our strongest or one of our main strengths. I don't know if you guys agree. I'd say that's one of maybe our weaknesses, to be honest.
The thing is with that, sorry, just the thing is, we kind of knew what Brighton were going to offer. A lot of energy, certainly in midfield. They were always going to target the right side of our team. We know they have big men at the back if they do get set pieces. And they were always going to have that game plan, to try and win the midfield battle and to try attack us down the right-hand side and play in transition, because there's a bit of a blueprint to play Liverpool at the moment. So I don't think we really needed to study Brighton all that well to really understand what we were going to get in this game.
Steve, I want to come to you in terms of going to the start of the game, and I was looking forward to it in terms of, I tweeted something about pretend it's and I think me and you spoke about it, pretend that it's the first day of the season. We've had our rough patch, so to speak, the first 6 games. We've had this break, however means we've come across this break. It is a break, and it's a time to reset, recharge in every way, shape, and manner. That wasn't quite the case, because the lineup suggested, and I know he alluded to the fact that the medical team advised him. I think some people are mixing up the words in terms of the medical team advised him or the medical team ordered him, or he was ordered by the medical team. I know it's a joint thing, and you've spoken about this in the past. I'm going to be very honest and brutally honest here, Steve. And some of you may like it, or some of you may not like it. But I have to be honest. As soon as I saw the team, I knew it's going to be a long afternoon. As soon as I saw the team, I knew we're going to struggle to create chances and even score goals. I know we're going to go into it. We ended up scoring 3. But I knew it was going to be an awkward afternoon. Going back to the lineup, how did you feel when you saw the lineup?
Well, 9 of the 11, you could have all prophesized they were going to play. The back 4 picked itself, as does the goalkeeper. I think every one of us has been on shows and had conversations leading up to Saturday to say, if Henderson's got 60 minutes in him, he'll go with the safe midfield of the 3 that he's come to trust over the years. Thiago, Fabinho, and Henderson. The Carvalho inclusion was an interesting one for me, because I don't think we've seen enough of him playing left midfield, left winger, to put him in there and expect him to sort of set the world alight. And we'll get into this. The difference in the dynamic of the team when Diaz came on was night and day. So I think this was the start of 9 games in 29 days. That's what this is. This is the start of trying to balance your squad, trying to make sure that the people get game time to keep them fresh. We also keep the players that are stretched a little bit in terms of travelling from international breaks, and the players that are not so fresh in the squad, keeping them out of the game time. So later on in the month, when we've got 2-3 games in a week, we've got some bodies available. What is worrying is the start of that game was I mean, Errol did the watch along, and when it comes to Errol, I'm pretty sure he'll speak about this. We just didn't get going from the start. We just never started the game. We never set out our stall. We never showed any intention to do what we wanted to do. We have gone back to kind of our way through 15, 20 minutes, trying to understand what the opposition have got to offer before we think about doing what we do. And I think looking at that team, I would agree with you. I didn't expect Bobby to get goals, but he did, and thank God he did. I thought the front 3 was questionable in terms of the personnel, because you've taken all the dynamic elements out of the front 3, with the exception of Salah, because we haven't seen Carvalho roast people down the line and get in the box and score, and that's not his fault. He hasn't had the game time. I thought it was. We understated the front line. We didn't give it enough attention. We didn't put up the boys in there that are going to do the damage. And I know I've spoken to you about this before, and he alludes to it in press conferences. He's waiting for his phone to go so the medical team can tell him who's available. That was the biggest game of the 2 games this week. So that is a much bigger game than the Rangers game in terms of, you want to sign Jude Bellingham, you want to sign this player, you want to sign that player. Minimum end of season would be Champions League football. Putting out teams like that, performing like that, not doing what we need to do right now, Champions League football has a question mark next to it. So when the team came out, I looked at it and thought, I like you, Bobby and Carvalho didn't inspire me. I have to be honest with you, and that's no criticism of them. Bobby's not the player he was, and Carvalho's just joined the club. So we were brave. We talk about being brave. That's not necessarily the type of brave we needed to be.
Errol, I'm just going to come to you in 1 second. I've got 2 super chats to get through. He says, yo, what's good? Appreciate the support. He says, Klopp stroke Pep, lack ideas. I think he means Pep Linders. Lack ideas when the original plan formation doesn't work. Don't think Klopp changes anything. He'll try to play them into form. Dueling Kall says, been a window since we won the Champions League. Fatigue, complacency, staleness kick in. Always a player or three short in the squad. Pathetic transfer business. And El Lad just adds on to that. He says, our transfer planning needs big change. We'll get into sort of
Can I just quickly say something? Look, forget the transfer windows. Forget we didn't do this, we didn't do that. We've got 25 players registered for the Premier League. We have to accept those 25 players will do better than what they're doing now. That's the issue right now. Not that we didn't sign that player or that player. The ones we've got are not performing in the way that we've become accustomed to. So it's easy to say we should have done this in the transfer window and we should have done that, but we didn't.
It's gone now. You can't go back, Steve. There's no point talking about it.
With the bodies we've got in the football club, we don't expect to see what we're seeing right now.
And my fear on top of that, to just add to that, sorry, Grizz, is the amount of pressure that is getting exerted in terms of missing the transfer now. We're going to forget that there's going to be a World Cup and then there's going to be the January transfer window. That's only 30 days to actually operate any real business. Now, I'm not saying you can't go out your way and buy players that strengthen your squad in January, but there's a premium, there's a January tax if you want to be able to do that, and you're not going to bring in the number of players and the volume of players that you need, especially from your biggest rivals that are fighting on other continents and other fronts, to actually bring them into to really improve the squad in January. Yeah, Tottenham managed to do a little bit last season, secured them top four. Is the business we can do? We did it with Diaz. Yeah, there is, but it might just be one. I feel like everybody's kind of clamoring for like wholesale changes now, and the next available window is January, and that's not the window for me to make those wholesale changes, is what I'd just say to that comment.
Kev, I'm going to come to you then, to that start of that game. And again, I'm going to be honest, and it could be brutally honest, or it could be maybe reactionary. I don't think it's reactionary now, because we always tend to do the show at least 24 hours after the event. I thought it was just as bad as the Napoli game, without Brighton being as efficient as Napoli. That opening half could have been 3-4-1 to Brighton, and I don't think many in the ground or watching around the world would have said it's not deserved. How did you look at that first half? Or let's say first 20 minutes, first 30 minutes?
I think it's a fair assessment. We were lucky even when we were 2 goals down to only be 2 goals down, because Brighton were cutting us open at will, creating really good chances. And if it weren't for Ali being in inspired form, we would have been 3 or 4 down within that first 20 minutes. And it was one of the most upsetting things for me during the whole 90 was the start, because after having a bit of a break, I really thought this was the opportunity now to sort of put the start of the season behind us, reassess, recalibrate, and just understand that, look, what's happened in the first 6 games, but we can start again from here. We're at home. I understand Brighton are a good team, but we had some players back returning from injury, a la Thiago, which is probably the most pivotal player for us at the minute. And I really thought this would be an opportunity for Liverpool to start the game strong, really get the crowd up for it and build some momentum. But instead, it just fell flat. And when Liverpool are flat and not pressing correctly and not doing all the right things that they should be, we get exposed, and instantly it turned from trying to gain momentum to actually the momentum going against us. And after the first 20 minutes, you thought, wow, nothing has really changed. You know, I know you can't switch form on and off, but we've been in poor form. We seem to have paused it for the international break and just continued again. You know, didn't seize the opportunity.
Press play.
Yeah, didn't seize the opportunity. And look, we'll come on to it. We improved after the first half an hour, but it was a little bit like throwing the kitchen sink at it. I know it was early, but that's where the improvement came, you know.
Just a quick super chat says Arthur last minute signing epitomizes our planning. Guys, was Arthur in the squad? I can't remember.
He's on the bench.
He was on the bench, bro.
Okay. Conroy.
Can I just add one before that question, guys? Just on the transfer one. I actually think, to people saying as well, we can talk about the transfers, absolutely, folks. I just think what me and Steer saying as well, and Errol, is Like, if we say that after every game, it's like we've got these games coming up and this is what we've got to do it. So it's like there's a time and a place to discuss that, and I get how people want to make it. But what I mean is we've kind of made ourselves in our beds right now, so we've just got to look at ways of improving that. So that's what I just wanted to add on the transfer thing. Sorry, Grizz, on you go.
No, it's good. It's good. Gander says drop points don't hurt as much as lack of desire. I think I saw that. Okay, I know this is going to sound funny, but again, I'm going to be honest because I've been brutally honest. Let me be pleasantly honest. For the first minute and a half, 2 minutes, I actually thought we came out of the traps in terms of energy and pressing. We actually pressed them for that first minute and a half, 2 minutes, and I thought, okay, we're going to have the desired energy, the required intensity, and hopefully Brighton won't be able to withstand this energy. It just died as soon as they scored with their first attack, guys. Break down that first goal, Conor, if you may, sir.
Yeah, so the first one, I actually got mixed up with these two. So the first one is, the first one is from Henderson's because I watched it earlier. So I think Brighton on attack, ball comes up in the air. I think Hendo miscues it. He doesn't really clear it.
He tries to bring it down, doesn't he?
Tries to bring it down. It's poor touch, isn't it? It kind of falls back a little bit. Lands to the Brighton player. I think it's Welbeck, but someone may correct me. He slides it to the left to Trossard. It does a bit of a shimmy, gets it on his left foot, and whilst doing that, does leave Trent for dead. But I actually think Trent's not getting there anyway, to be perfectly honest. But each their own on that one. But he beats him well and fires it in the bottom corner. It's a really clever finish as well. Trossard, who I think is criminally underrated as well. That was his. He always seems to perform against us, but I think he performs against a lot of people. I think you don't get in the Belgium national team unless you're a good player. So I think it was a very good finish by Trossard, and it's an ideal start. So that is now just a wee start for his guys. I think that's the 15th of 18 games. That's the 15th time we've went 1-0 behind. Wow. That is shocking. And you know what? We had an interview that says we have to reinvent ourselves. No, we do the same thing. And it's not working. Like, I understand the mantra is pressing. I understand this is Klopp. I get all that, but you have to adapt sometimes. And it feels like, it's just, I don't know. We've got 30-year-olds in midfield and we try to gegenpress constantly. It's like, why don't we just start back and let a team come on to us so they don't know what to do, and then we can counter on them. Build a bit of confidence. Sorry, I'm going on one, guys, but yeah, that's the first goal, and that was the 15th time in 18 that we've conceded first. Champions League final, 1 point off the league. 15th time in 18 games. That's shocking.
Steve, that didn't calm us down, or that didn't even sort of. Normally, when we concede, the crowd lifts us, and we kind of get into a groove where we've conceded again, and we start trying to gain back some of the ascendancy. But it was almost like the crowd seen this before. There was a kind of flatness, not only in the players, not only in Klopp, but in the crowd. And it encouraged Brighton, because Brighton are the type of team that actually don't stop in terms of their pressing, in terms of their forward attacking play. They're not the type of team to score and go back in a deep block and defend for their lives like a Palace may, or whoever has done it to us in the past. They actually thought, hey, we could finish these. That was worrying as much as conceding the first goal, wasn't it, Steve?
Yeah, but Brighton wouldn't have been impacted by Liverpool fans. You know, these are professional sports people. A lot of managers will say, go to Anfield, it's a spectacular venue, and the atmosphere is amazing, and it's European night or something else. But this is a Liverpool side that's fans are full of apprehension right now. You know, when you said that, then I watched the faces on this show now, and the same face 3 times in Errol, Conroy, and Cav, which is, yeah, I know exactly where he's going with this. The second they score, the ground is riddled with anxiety, because we've seen this all season, and we're thinking, shit, here we go again, and this needs to change, and we needed to do something different, and we needed to be something different. And it was all of our bad habits were all laid out to bear in front of us again. We didn't press, the goal goes in, and then instead of having leaders going, right, I'm going to get this game by the scruff of the neck and turn this around, that there's a fear in the side at the moment, and that's what losing games and not starting the season will do to you when you're Liverpool Football Club. Less than a year ago, we were being heralded as a team that might do something that would never be achieved in football before and will never be achieved again. And there's a reason why you don't win the quad, because it's that hard to do. Now what we've got is a side that's got loads of self-doubt. The system isn't working particularly well. Teams have figured out, not just Liverpool, but teams have figured out how to play a high-pressing system. And it's the same for everybody who's trying it. Aston Villa can't do it either. Steven Gerrard's been known to play with a high press. Aston Villa can't get his system to work either, because teams sit down and watch videos and they figure it out. They figure out the high press. Football evolves and moves on. Manchester City went and bought a number 9 to change their system. We went and bought a number 9 potentially to change our system. The second Brighton score, all of that fear, all of that apprehension comes back into the stadium, and it transcends itself from the stands onto the pitch. And that's where your atmosphere can work against you. Right now, Liverpool fans are scared of what's happening to our football team, scared of the fact that, at some point tonight we're going to talk about what kind of race are we in. And that's the conversation nobody wants to have at the moment, and understandably so. But the moment the goal goes in, all of our fears come home to roost. All of the anxiety fills up the ground. All of the stress around going behind again for the number of times that Conroy said just eats away at the fans. And it's not enjoyable. It's not enjoyable to sit and feel like that in the ground when you've conceded a goal again, and suddenly you've got to get yourself back level, and then you've got to try and push yourself on and win a game of football, when this season winning football matches becomes a habit. We haven't got that habit right now. At this moment in time, if we're getting a win, it's a last-minute goal against Newcastle. It's a good performance against Ajax, let's be honest, because it was. Or it's an absolute misnomer of a football match, which was the Bournemouth game, which I keep saying time and time again, and probably will continue to do so for the remainder of the season. Don't measure Liverpool Football Club on the Bournemouth game. That's like nothing else on earth, that match. It was just a complete anomaly in terms of a football match. Right now, the fans are really, really worried about our capacity to throw goals away. And when that happens, you can feel the anxiety in the ground, whether you're watching it on the telly or whether you're there.
I'm going to get into once we go 2-0 down with you part, but I just wanted to get your attention and your opinion on this. Sugar Saint sends in a super chat. He says, do you not think 5 years of competing with artificial City losing multiple 90+ point titles and Champions League finals would take its toll physically and mentally?
Yeah, I guess it would. There's a toll to pay, but there's another 18. There's another like 17 teams in the league, 16 teams in the league that are sitting behind City as well, that have got to get themselves up for it every single season. So I'm not in this fucking feeling sorry for ourselves mode. Like, us as fans can't feel sorry for ourselves. And like, Liverpool last season gave me some of the best memories and times I've had as a football fan. So I'm not going to feel sorry for myself 5 months later now that it's not working. No, like, it is hard, and don't get me wrong, the humans, these aren't robots, so there is a mental decompartmentalizing that they've got to be able to do to get themselves in the right headspace. But Klopp should have been able to look into his players' eyes at the start of the season, pre-season, and ask them very, very honestly and openly, can you go again? And now if they're not big enough to be able to turn around and say, do you know what, boss? I'd love to be able to, but I'm goosed, I'm knackered. Mane, he might have asked that question to Mane, and Mane might have been really honest with him and just said, I can't. Unfortunately, I can't go again. And the decision was made. All right, then, there's an option there. Go out the door. I wish you the best of luck. You go with me blessing. But he needed to do that with the entire squad. Now, if these men have sold him a dream and lied to him, then you've only got themselves to blame. I can't feel sorry for you. Like, you've got yourselves into this mess. We said before, we've got ourselves, we've made our bed. We have to now find a way. It's not about reinventing ourselves. We have to go back to the fundamentals about how we as a team want to be played against. We don't want to make it easy for these teams, the players. We don't want to give them a free pass every single game, because teams are in a position right now where they know They know our vulnerabilities. They know our mentality isn't the same as what it was, whether that's because there's a frailty in there or that there's a little bit of an anxiety. But they know that they can actually cripple us by starting that quick press, getting on the front foot against us, and actually trying to get that first goal. They don't have to put us under the cosh and have us pen back in our own box, defending our box for 5 to 15 to 20 minutes before they score. They only need to do a couple of nice patterns of playing and they're in. As long as they've got someone that's a bit of a bagsman, they're going to score. So we need to make ourselves more difficult to break down and more difficult to beat. Now, we'll probably talk about how do we get to that point in a little bit, but fundamentally, I think we've got to expect now that this Liverpool team are going to have to dig the deepest we've ever had to dig under Klopp's reign to get ourselves out of this mess. And it's damage limitations for us already in this season. It really is, because, you know, I'll put a pin in the expectations of pushing for a title. We can't. That's just deluded and naive. What we actually really need to do is look at the bigger picture in the long term. The bigger picture is Salah signed a long-term deal. The bigger picture is Klopp signed an extension on his contract. The bigger picture is we do have the ambitions to go and sign players like Bellingham in the summer. So in order to do that, to keep the wheels on the fucking bus, we need to still be in Champions League next season. I said the only blessing out of this right now for me, Grizz, is we're in this predicament from the front end of the season. It's not hit us in February and March once we put a huge push in, and inevitably we've just fell that little bit short, and you're now scrambling and the games are getting fewer and fewer and fewer to actually accumulate the points you need to get top four. We've pretty much got 3/4 of the season to still nail on top four. If and you become all of a sudden now from mid-October till the end of the season one of the most informed teams, you should get top four comfortably. You might not win, you probably won't win the league, but you should be able to secure top four comfortably. And I think that's the only solace as a Liverpool fan that I'm taking right now, is we're in this mess in October. So in terms of actually figuring shit out and getting the right balance of resilience and ruthlessness, we need to start improving on that massively from now until the end of the season. And I think the only way we really do that is there has to be a change to the system fundamentally. I think we have to shock teams. I think we have to approach games differently and have teams second-guessing themselves rather than our players actually second-guessing themselves.
Kev, we've often talked about this show in terms of that shock element, something different. We discussed it to death all summer. But we haven't seen any of those implemented. We've seen subtle changes, and I know there's been articles written on various sort of suggestions that we've changed, you know, from a more 4-3-3 to a 4 with Thiago sitting more as a base with Fabinho. I personally don't really see it like that yet. Henderson, obviously, or Elliott being that slightly more progressive 8, yet having to cover Trent as well at the same time. And then Trent, it was just a mess, wasn't it? Again, it was just a mess. We go 2-0 down, and as we've all said, we were lucky to be only 2-0 down. But we somehow get a lifeline. It's a ball from Henderson, and I think Mohamed Salah tries to bring it down. I don't think he saw that as a vision. That's not vision, right? Nobody claiming otherwise. We get ourselves back in it, and it's Firmino who actually scores. At that stage, do you think, okay, we're over the worst of it? Alisson's kept us. This is just the goal we needed before halftime, and to push on now.
Well,
or do you think, or was it something that you thought? You know, did you see us coming back into this game at that stage?
I seen us coming back into the game because at the end of the day, we have a quality team. You know, these aren't bad players. They're just good players playing badly, you know, amongst a lot of other things. But I felt we could get back into the game. But I had just this overriding feeling that even if we did, which inevitably we did, it was papering over cracks. The performance just wasn't good enough. And Errol touches upon tactics. I'm not too sure what they were after 20 minutes. We all know, and it's been labelled as that we're a bit predictable. We know what Liverpool's fundamentals are. It's a high line, it's a high press, and cause chaos, as Klopp would put it. When you win the ball high up, you know, let the forwards go and do their thing. That's
At the moment, it seems to be causing chaos for our own players in their minds.
Mm-hmm. And I
think for the first time since the first season of Klopp, do you remember when we went to all these places and grounds and heavy metal football, end-to-end stuff? They score, we score, no control. It was back to those days.
Mm-hmm. But those days were justifiable because Klopp's trying to implement a system. But
maybe it justified again because maybe we are trying to implement a new system. Maybe, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, maybe we are implementing a new system and we're just not seeing it yet.
You're clutching. You're clutching, bro. You're clutching.
I probably am, but it's my job to do it today.
Oh, and again, the only reason I say you're clutching because, as Cav's saying there, back then it was justifiable because we was trying to implement a system, and you could see it. You could see what he wanted his players to do, and they weren't always going to be perfect, and that's why the mistakes would get made, and that's why we didn't have the control. Right now, you can't actually pinpoint what the actual stylistic system of us is. We're in this halfway house of being able to be. We don't press properly as a unit. Everything's very individualized, and one of the biggest critiques I've got of us at the moment is I don't mind. I prefer us to go up early doors and get a great start. But if we're going to go behind, I don't mind because I always feel like we're always good for goals. My issue is when you've got the ambitions of winning titles or Champions Leagues and you want to play almost 63 games in a whole season and, you want to do it 2-3 seasons in, whatever it might be. The reality of the situation is you need to play like the way City are, efficient football, where you're dispatching teams, so you're not actually exerting all your energy week in, week out. You're playing on 60 to 70% most weeks and getting the job done. Right now, we're having to play on 110% worth of energy to get a fucking draw with Brighton at home, bro. That's the issue, and it's October. Like, that for me is the problem, because when it comes to fucking playing Man U or Chelsea or City come March, we're going to have nothing left in the tank.
I slightly agree, Errol, but the thing is, Liverpool, out of any team, certainly in the league, possibly in the world, are the best at harnessing momentum from the crowd, playing games regularly and results. So, look, you simply just can't match how Man City play. They're a unique and special team. I feel like Liverpool don't necessarily have to match Man City style. They just need to get that momentum, win games and roll. And if you have to put out the same core 13, 14 players, okay. But the 5 subs this season should have helped that, because if we were winning games and there was momentum, and we could be pulling Thiago and Salah and Diaz off on 60, 70 minutes. At the minute, it's all the opposite way, isn't it? We're having to play all our best players, still not getting results, and now we don't know where to turn. So that style of play, that high press, high energy, I think that's fine, but it's not being done well. The press isn't paying off at the minute. And last season, we were a lot of fans were critiquing the high line. We were saying, why don't we just drop by 5 yards? That would solve a lot of problems. This season, it's not even quite that. At times I don't even feel like the high line's an issue, because we actually do drop back, but then we don't win the midfield battle, and there's too many space between the lines. So we've gone from just having one kind of issue of a high line to now having a host of issues around the pitch. And the tactics then just look like, well, what are they? And
scrambled.
It is scrambled. And, we'll come on to it to add to that, the sort of substitutions and stuff. It's like at no point during that game and during any game do you really have confidence that Liverpool are going to get control. Yes, we got back into the game, but like I say, it always felt like we were papering over cracks. And the most nervous I felt was actually when we were ahead, because I kind of thought, I don't feel like this team can hold on to a lead.
We're going to get to that period.
Isn't it? That's mad.
We're actually going to get to that period. I think Cav probably wanted to get that in because he has to leave at 10. So it's good you got that in. But Conroy, talking about changes, and I'll guess this super chat. It says Messi FC says, to think Klopp will change things to me is foolish. He always had one way of doing things. Either the system works again or it gets worse and he walks.
Football evolves. People need to evolve. That's what Steve just said. We shouldn't there's no option right now. There is no option. You'll have one win out of 6 the way it's going. But guys, are we watching the same game? That might be the stupidest pressing I've seen watching Liverpool on the Saturday. I seen Mo Salah doing a headless chicken press like Bruno Fernandes when we beat them 5-0, which leads to that goal. Like, that's not how pressing works. Like, you have to be cohesive in a unit and a trigger. To do something like that is brainless. And the fact that that's happening, that a team you'd think it'd be training for 3 weeks on pressing, is baffling. And I don't think we spoke about that enough. That is baffling. This team the mantra is pressing. So one of our worst aspects in Saturday's pressing. Something doesn't add up there from me. So I don't know what it is. And even like Diaz is a good example. Diaz had a good season, but I would say like he's still got to come to grips with where he should press. But Salah's been here for 4 years, so I don't know. Like, I think someone mentioned the individual problems earlier or whatever. Like, for me, pressing should not be an issue in this team. There should be, like, in the sense of they should know how to press as a unit. It might not be good enough and teams might be able to pick you off, but it shouldn't be individual ones for me. I think, to me, that's worrying. That's very worrying. That they're not cohesive in that. So I just, sorry, Grizz, I had to jump.
No, it's good. No, it's good. I like it. I like it when you're passionate. I like when you act
I'm
all
always
calm,
passionate,
and like
but
James Bond, Sean Connery, right?
Yeah,
and then suddenly you explode.
Yeah.
I love it.
Do you know why it's called
guys,
shaken not stirred, by the way? I found that out the other day. You know why it says shaken not stirred? Because when you get a martini shaken, the alcohol goes to the bottom. So when he's sipping it, he's not actually drinking alcohol. He's been alert. There you go. Brilliant.
Interesting. Don't ever say you don't get amazing insight on the RedFellas. Guys, there's close to 750 of you in here, but the ratio of likes is quite embarrassing, pretty much like Liverpool's pressing these days. Steve, Conroy's spoken about sort of the lack of intelligent pressing. I think he was talking about in terms of it's scrambled. It seemed like individuals are not cohesive. Like when we are at our best, we swarm over them. He brings on Luis Diaz. It has an impact. It's probably some of the best football we play in that 20 minutes or so. To me, it's still not convincing. There's no stage, like Cav says, of that game where I think we're in control. Despite us having Matip, despite us having Fabinho, Thiago, Bobby Firmino, and all of these, the big dogs on the pitch, we promised not to speak about individuals because we could speak about them all day and all night. And we still wouldn't have enough time to speak about them because individually, every single one of them is playing below par. Not just the media spotlight on Trent or Virgil, but every single one of them is playing below par. Luis Diaz doesn't start the game because of the medical advice he's given. But he comes on and suddenly we have a bit more impetus about us, don't we? And we score finally we score a very Liverpool-like goal. A counter-attack, a blistering counter-attack. Henderson plays a lovely pass out to Diaz and Bobby equalizes. Surely at that stage we think, okay, 60 minutes in, we're level, half an hour to go and control the game and win the game.
At that stage, there's quite a lot of self-doubt in the team in terms of having conceded 2 goals and a whole host of other chances. You're quite right. The change between Diaz and Carvalho is significant in the sense that Diaz gets the ball, he isolates the defender one-on-one, he goes through his defender, puts the ball across the box. Bobby gets his dancing feet out, goes around a half-hearted challenge and takes his equaliser very well. Whereas the damage is done in terms of the psychological element of the team because of what Brighton have been able to achieve, certainly in the first half in terms of creating chances. We don't believe collectively as a room that we've already said this, that we would go on and control the game and take it on and win the game. And there's a question mark as to whether the team believed they could go on and win the game and take it on and control the game. And the point about the press from Conroy's point before is, it looks like a ridiculous press from Salah, and it only looks ridiculous because nobody else in the team responds to that movement. So if you sit in an elevated position and you watch Liverpool press properly, when they press well, they press as a team. You literally see the whole team move up and squeeze the space. There's people watching Salah do that. Literally watching one man.
Is that not worrying that they're not following him? That's worrying to me because
mate, there's a lot of things to be concerned about, and I don't know whether there's there's an arrogance about us at the moment which we don't have the right to play with, to be honest with you, in terms of, we nearly did the quadruple last year, all will come well. Well, that's not the case. You get out of football what you put in. You work hard to win games of football. You work hard to have the right. It's an old cliche, but it's very true. You have to earn the right to play football. We're not earning anything at the moment. You're right. The Newcastle game could have been a draw. The only game we've won with any conviction at all that you can measure would be the Ajax game at home. And that's 9 games, and we've got one convincing performance. I'm not going to mention Bournemouth for the reasons I said earlier, but we've got one convincing performance against a team of decent quality to call on. And it's no surprise when you level up with Brighton and go in front against Brighton that the fans think, actually, can we get this across the line? Because there's no evidence of that this season. And I said before about the anxiety in the ground and the apprehension that is within the fans at the moment, whether they be television fans or game-going fans, there is a concern in our fan base that something is wrong. And it's endemic of the whole team. It goes right across the team at the moment. And you can look at the front line and say, yes, we lost Sadio Mane, but no, we shouldn't talk about Sadio Mane, but we've lost a little bit of shape up top. So you can factor that into the conversation. On its own, it isn't sufficient enough to see a team like Liverpool struggle against teams like Fulham, against teams like the Man United team that we lost to is a dreadful Man United team. Let's be realistic about it. They got their arse handed to them today by a very good Manchester City team, and they were appalling.
Can I just... Go on. Sorry, Steve. No, you go. Sorry.
So I'll come back to the point I made earlier. We're probably doing a lot of the same things that we were doing before. But when you're doing the same things season in, season out, season in, season out, and other teams try and replicate what you do because it works, at some point, the people who are worth their salt in football clubs sit and watch videos and say, how do you negate that? How do you stop that? Because you have to. You have to find a solution to stop Liverpool being Liverpool and steamrolling and bullying teams and making them play the way they want to. So you could just change how you line up against Liverpool. The quarterfinal of the Champions League against Real Madrid was a blueprint in terms of you can switch the ball all day long against Liverpool and you get rewards for doing that. And we've not reacted to that. And we're in a horrible position at the moment where there's no confidence, there's no intensity, we're not winning games of football. And I think there's an element of fear in what we're doing at the minute.
And I think that was no more highlighted at its best. And I'm going to come to Cav and Errol because they got to leave us soon. Errol, I'll come to you first. That was highlighted, that fear, that I don't know what you want to call it, insecurity. I know you was doing a watch along for the Redmen TV, and I didn't get a chance to watch you how you felt at that stage. We take the lead through an absolute comical goal, and we think sometimes you just need. Do you know that phrase we always say? Something just go off the backside or something, go in, go our way, and we start again. That's literally what happens, right? It goes in off the guy's back, I think, or something, whatever. I turned around to my mate and I was like, "We need another 1 or 2 at least here, because they will score again."
I think Klopp at the time as well made some really attacking subs about a couple of minutes just before the goal goes in. So then when the goal does, I think, with the intent that, right, now we're back in the game and we've equalised. Let's spend the next 15, 20 minutes getting a foothold in the game and start building a little bit of momentum and kind of get on the front foot more, dominate, have a little bit more of intensity going forward. And I think it comes from a set piece, ultimately, the goal. So then the players are caught in two minds now, because the instruction was to go and get the next goal. But obviously when it comes less than 5 minutes later, they're like, well, we've went and got the next goal now. And it didn't really look like we was really ever trying to go for the fourth goal, but it didn't look like we wanted to shut down.
We were in limbo.
Yeah.
We were scrambled again. Even though we took the lead, we've come back from 2-0 up, 3-2 up. It was like this is not Liverpool. This is not under Klopp. This is not controlled. Thiago, as I said, all those big players on the pitch. No one took control in terms of what to do. We didn't know whether to counter them. We didn't know whether to sit back. Who's to blame for that?
And that was, again, it's the it's the instructions you'd be kind of expected to have of the players. They're given to the players at that point, because once you now take the lead, you know you need to get out of there with the 3 points. You know, you've got away with one. I think Cav said it before, you know, even though we had turned the situation around, we was papering over the cracks, but at that moment in time, you're getting away with it. So as a result, what you need to do now is lock off the game. No more mistakes. Don't let Brighton come back into this game now. Don't let them put you under the cosh. And there was no actual control in midfield. And I think we've said it before. I think especially on this channel, Grizz, Fabinho's not that guy. He's great at doing set things, but he's not that leader. He's not that vocal point. Van Dijk doesn't look like he's got that level of confidence at the moment. And I expect him to be that guy. If I'm honest, I do expect him to be that guy, but he doesn't look like he wants to be that guy at the moment. I think James Milner coming on, I don't really think he can. I know a lot of people are throwing a lot of stick at James Milner for the game, but ultimately, I don't really think James Milner's at that much fault for yesterday's yesterday's result, because he comes on and plays left back. It's not like he's even in midfield. We needed someone at the heart of midfield to really just stay in a game and go, right, let's control it. Let's keep the ball away from them. Let's play small footy. It looked like we was doing a little bit of time wasting, a little bit of counter, but there was no real cohesive plan at all once we went in front. And the first thing I said was, if we don't control the game now, and if we don't have any real game management from this point on, Brighton will score a third. And, you know, the inevitable happened.
Jono says, weird Grizz, almost happy Errol is saying Fabinho ain't that guy. If I can't laugh about it, what else can I do, Jono? Like, do you really honestly think I'm thriving in Errol speaking about Fabinho, one of our greatest DMs ever, playing like this? Do you think I'm actually happy about it? Really? Do you think any of us are happy about speaking about this club? This, as Errol says, last season giving us some of the best moments in my life anyway. Really? Do you think I'm sitting here laughing at him? Weird message, to be honest with you. Errol, I must thank you. I know you've got an early start in the morning.
Yeah,
thank you so much
for giving us.
A
little bit of therapy, though. I do. I always. The one thing I love about us, is we're posted. Win, draw, loss, we'll still be posted. We'll still put our neck out on the line for this team, because we love the club first and foremost. So, as fans, gents, thank you very much. The therapy was much needed. It feels good to kind of debrief after the fact rather than just being caught up in the emotion of it all. Cav, mate, it was a pleasure to meet you. Hopefully,
you also, Errol. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. Have a good
Top
evening.
man, Errol. We catch up in a bit, brother. Look after yourself. Have a good week.
Grizz, can I jump on the back of Errol's point?
Of course you can.
I'm just trying to understand why our big players are hiding a little bit. Okay, so we've got Virgil not playing particularly well, but that's okay. You know, we've got Salah, we've got Henderson, we've got Fabinho, we've got big experienced players in this team, and we've labelled ourselves before as mentality monsters, right? We could overcome so much in the past. I'm trying to understand why the likes of Virgil and stuff just seem so casual about everything, you know? And the only thing I can draw upon is that there's been a change in tactics, approach, or something, and the guys are trying to get on board with the process, but it's not quite working. And I can only think that they're just going in their heads, just trust the process. It will come good. It will come good. No one, because if the tactics are exactly the same, right, and people are setting the triggers and not everyone's going or what have you, I'd expect to see the likes of Virgil going, no, when he goes, you go, and bark some orders around and do something. It all just seems a bit casual. Would you? Yeah,
no, I know the point you're making. And Conroy, there could be a few things, but the few things that come to my mind straight away without having a deeper look into it would be the instructions possibly are the same, but due to the age and the amount of football the same players have been asked to do the same thing, they just can't do it physically. All the instructions are different, and the same players that we've had for 5-6 seasons are finding it difficult to adjust to the new instructions, and it's just a bedding in process. Or the last and the worst take, and I hope this one isn't true, is they're not responding to the coach. Is there any more suggestions what it could be? Because they're the ones that come to my mind straight away. I don't know if Conroy and Steve have got anything else to add to that.
I don't think it's the last one. But what I would say is,
I hope not. As I said, that's the disturbing one.
No, I get that. The thing about a system, Grizz, is like even when you try a new system, you usually would see benefits of it. So I don't really go for that one either, because either way you want a little movements in the shape. It's still, let's be honest, you know that Rangers on Tuesday, it's going to be a 4-3-3. There's going to be nothing different. It's going to be the same thing. Okay, is Trent maybe more inverted, or is it out and overlapping? You know, I've not really seen him overlap much recently anyway. So let's be honest, it's probably still going to be quite similar. I don't see anything like that. I'm not really quite understanding the logic now, to be honest, because it's like you've got Núñez on the bench, right? If you're chasing a game, as soon as Brighton score, actually, when did Brighton score? Maybe it's a bit too late, actually. Maybe I'm being too harsh with that one.
83rd minute, but he comes on in the 89th minute.
But do you know what it's like? Sometimes it can take.
Sure.
I can't remember how long it takes to get the ball out to go out for a sub. But so I think that's unfair. To me, it's like, I know I say this all the time, and it's getting boring now. The last couple of weeks, it's like in Klopp, trust absolutely. But Steve mentioned a thing about evolution. It seems like it's not every team can press now, but also other teams evolve. They look at evolving. Like there's a reason that you mentioned Pep, but let's not compare to Man City. There's reasons other teams look to do that because they need to change your football. So, like anything, like look at Ferguson's teams. You had to refresh it every couple of years. That was the go-to. And I think tactically you have to have adaptability. And I mean, I don't see what is the problem for a couple of weeks just playing counter-attack and getting the confidence back in that back four, like in the midfield. To me, that's not rocket science to do that and give teams, I thought they would give us space in behind. And Steve said Ajax. Steve was exactly right against Ajax, but Ajax play passing football and give us space. So that's not a coincidence either. I've not learned anything from the Ajax game. For me, it's... I don't know. Like right now, I think we're just in really, really bad form, and I think to go at it the same way we've been going at it is the wrong way. Like it's not smart to keep doing that, because what's happened now is 17 teams will look at Brighton's results. Oh, that's what we'll do now. Oh, I'm buzzing to go to Anfield now. We'll get a few goals there. No fear, nothing like that.
And we prided ourselves. What I used to pride.
It's gone.
Myself,
That's gone.
I used to pride myself on speaking to rival fans and say we're the nastiest, hardest team to beat. We're now probably, and I used to ridicule Arsenal fans and saying they're the easiest team to beat. We're now up against probably one of the hardest teams to play against currently on form. We have to admit it. And they're coming in to play us next game, probably one of the easiest teams to play. But we'll get on to that. There's a couple of super chats. One's relevant, two are irrelevant, but we appreciate the support because, you know, it's an open channel, so people like to take the piss. Even though we got touched today differently, Adams is a United fan.
Chat, to be fair.
He's brilliant. He's brilliant. There's never no time for some Liverpool tears. Brilliant. We love you for that.
No, I do the same. I was watching the City game today to feel better, so I agree.
Exactly. And as awful as Man U are, their defense is better. But this is the one I wanted to get your attention, Steve. And we've discussed this, and I guess we end up with talking about kind of this segment. We close this show with this segment. Ash sends in a super chat and appreciate the support, bro. He says, best 11 in 2008 compared to the best 11 right now. So that's 5 years, according to my amazing maths. Difference is Gini for Thiago, Mane for Diaz. Way too many miles on the clock. The issue is not enough trust in the squad, not being ruthless and improving the 11 while on top. Discuss, sir, Steve.
Well, we're back to the transfer window, the last part of that comment there, and we don't need to get ourselves bogged down on that. We've touched that tonight already. The little forward thing is typically means he thinks that Gini's better than Thiago, and See that little thing there? That means greater than in most mathematical equations. Maybe I'm wrong. Mane is greater than Diaz. Please, Ash, tell us without super chatting it whether I'm right or wrong there.
Yeah.
The difference being is that Thiago doesn't do Gini's job. Gini was a ball recycler. We had the best recycling midfield world football's ever seen. And I don't care who comes at me for saying that. That was the best midfield three for recycling the ball and doing that job, and pretty much only that job. But what it gave us was the middle of the pitch was locked down. You got nothing off Liverpool's midfield for years. So we get into a situation with a contract with Gini. He wanted 3 years, we wanted 2, blah, 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 and all that nonsense. Comes to pass, he leaves and goes to PSG, and we lose the left-hand side of the midfield in terms of when we haven't got the ball. He was so good at that when we didn't have the ball. We concede goals against West Ham, we concede goals against Everton, and there are other goals where they come down that side of the pitch. We don't deal with it. We should have tactical foul Gerard Bowen, who carried the ball for 30 yards before Fornal scores away at West Ham. We've lost that ability to shut down that midfield. Thiago gives you something different. Flip side to that, with Nat Phillips and Reece Williams as centre-halves, in a double pivot, Fabinho and Thiago give you 28 out of 30 points at the end of the season to finish third and qualify for the Champions League. So you can almost contra that argument by saying in the right system with the right form, and this form is the key word here, that you can play without having Gini Wijnaldum in your team. There's just something fundamentally wrong at the moment, and I don't think it's a case of they're not listening to the manager. I just think they've got themselves in a bit of a mess. I said before, winning games of football becomes a habit. Losing games of football leads to self-doubt. That's new for this team. They've not experienced that before. They're not sitting in the changing room looking at each other going, what the hell's going on? We don't do this. But the reality is we are doing this, and we do need to evolve, and we do need to change, and you can't change your system in the middle of the season because it takes preparation and it takes time. Football is so scientific. You see, like, the best teams in the world push the ball into space and there doesn't appear to be anybody there. Oh, and then suddenly the fullbacks come onto the ball because it's that intricate and it's that scientific. There is a time and a place for a player to be in a certain position to receive the ball. To try to reset that in mid-season is nigh on impossible because you don't have the time to work on it. You don't have the players available to work on it. We had 5 players or 6 players stay back from international duty who weren't injured. That does not give you the opportunity to sit and work on passages of play and try and change your system. We had too many bodies away in international football for absolutely pointless fixtures, by the way. We've got a problem to solve. We all have sat in this room. Cav's probably said it elsewhere because I've not spent any time with him before. And we've all lauded Jurgen Klopp as comparable to the great Paisleys and Shankleys of this world. Well, if we're going to carry on with those plaudits, this is the time he needs to show us what he's made of because he's got problems to solve.
And that
it isn't about Gini, it isn't about Mane, it's about the psychology within the squad right now. It's about the ability to believe that they're still that team and do the things that we're not even doing the basics very well at the moment. And we were talking about this in the week leading up to the game. In a side full of that many stars, you can afford for one person to take the mentality that says, I'm not playing very well, but it's actually okay because the guy next to me will sort out the problem because he's that good. And actually, I can get away with having a bad game every now and then. When you've got 5 or 6 of your key players going into games with that mentality, and we're all sitting there looking at Harvey Elliott going, this kid's great. And he is great. But he's great in a side that's not performing because he stands out, because he's working hard and he's doing all the things that we've come to accept as a given for this Liverpool side. This is where Klopp's going to earn the right to be held and heralded up there alongside Bob Paisley and Bill Shankly, in that he's got his first genuine, real challenge with the squad that he's built. And he now needs to go and find the answer. And the only change of shape I can see that you could do now that wouldn't cause too many problems is to go to 3 centre-backs, 2 wing-backs, and keep your 2 holding midfielders. That, for me, would be the only way. And who am I to say that? Because I'm a nobody at the end of the day when it comes to football. But for me, that is the only possible way I can see us getting out of this. First thing you do when you take a football team over at any standard is you make yourself difficult to beat. Right now, that's not Liverpool's position. We need to get back to stopping teams creating chances against us. Could you imagine playing Khanage, Matip and Virgil in the back three? Virgil's unbelievable in the Dutch back three. Unbelievable. You could play Robertson slightly advanced on the left, Trent slightly advanced on the right. Your double pivot of 2 from 3, and then your front three with whoever you want. Right now, it's too easy for teams to get at us, and everyone's looking at everybody else trying to solve the problem without rolling their sleeves up as a unit and saying, right, this isn't happening, boys. Sort your shit out. Start playing football the way that we play football. The big names in the football club are not producing at the moment.
I've got a super chat, and either one of you can address it, Conroy or Cav. It says, guys, do you think Conte and Klopp same tactics, irrespective of teams, away or tournament, is getting outdated, or are we reading too much? I think basically he's just asking, unless I'm reading it wrong, that the system's outdated or they play it irrespective of opposition. I don't know, maybe help me.
Well, Cav, I'll let you go in a sec. I can maybe take. I think it is the start of the season, so there's still a bit of time for changing that. I'll let you take Klopp. Regarding Conte, I don't think Conte, because if you look at that Italian team that done really well and was unlucky to get put out by Germany, he had like a back three, but he had like Giaccherini, who'd not really played in that position before, and he was playing him in attacking position. So like, and he had Graziano Pella as a focal point. So it's like, I feel like there might be similarities, but I do think someone like a Conte, if you're doing like international football and club football, I think you need to adapt a bit. And I think, to be fair, his Inter team actually had good spells where they were reasonably quite decent at coming out from the back, but no one really talks about that with Conte. I think right now, his Spurs side, it's a bit weird, to be honest, because it's like quite poor standard, quite unattractive football, and getting results. But I think he's had spells where that's not been the case. So I would tend to disagree with that one. But like, I understand the logic behind it. So it's a good super chat, though.
I guess Cav, you can take this one. Then he says the absence of Ox, Naby, Jones has caused the domino effects in terms of the 5 subs, refreshing the first team and changing formation in midfield. This 5 subs, we were supposed to think that it's going to really favor us and help us because of the options we would have and everything. So far, I can't remember many a game where it's changed for the positive. Unless someone can remind me top of my head.
Not for us. I've seen other teams benefit from it. Man City today was a prime example, putting on 4 changes when they could. No, not for us so far this season. But to be perfectly honest, yes, we at one point had 11 players absent through injury. At the minute, those names that are in the super chat are still unavailable for selection. But every match day we've gone into, I've looked at the players that are available and have felt like we've had enough to win games. So whilst the injuries don't help, and they definitely don't, I don't really see that as the reason why we've not been getting results this season. I think it's a multitude of things. It's tactics, it's motivation, it's application, it's players individually not playing up to scratch. So I wouldn't lay the blame on the injuries, solely on the injuries anyway.
Conroy, what next? Whoa, what next? Is a trip to Arsenal. I guess Rangers. Okay, we address the Rangers first. Obviously, we will having a more in-depth preview, but just top of your head. I think, was it Errol that spoke at the start of the show and said expectations have changed? Or what is it? Is it changed, or what's the word that people use? Sort of, you align adjusted.
Yeah.
You align your expectations according to what you've seen. And what we've seen suggests...
I think you've already said it. You said it last week. You think it's... I'll let you say it, sorry, but I think...
I'll let you continue. You know what? So, yeah.
I think like it's all good to say, you can go on this unbelievable run, and I understand mathematically and how far I get that. But from what I'm seeing, there is... And on the back of Errol's good point about January, even if for some mad reason the way we ran goes out the window and we buy 4 players in January, it's quite difficult to do that in January. So for what I'm seeing, you're against an absolutely outstanding team who didn't even have, was it their 4th and 5th choice centre-back today? By the way, a centre-back who came in, Khanage, who people were lambasting as being a poor signing, and then 6-3 is still a bit, that's generous to Man United. So that's the level we're on. That's the level they're on. And I just think it doesn't matter what we do, but the team we've got, I can't see us competing for that title. I think we'll get top 4.
We're going to wrap this up. We're going to
I'll
wrap
let
this up
Cav
in the
go,
next.
because I know Cav has to go. So.
Well, no, Cav's going to go now. We're going to wrap up in about 5 minutes anyway. But Cav, thank you very much for coming on tonight, mate. Hopefully speak to you many times again, and thank you very much again.
Yeah, thank you. I know it was last minute. I'd have loved to have come on when Liverpool were playing better, and we could have all been positive, because being negative and having to talk about Liverpool not doing so well isn't my vibe. I like to bring good vibes, but unfortunately, we have to react in a human way to what we're seeing from this team. So yeah, thanks again. Nice to meet you guys.
And we will 100% get you on after a thumping win, because you deserve it, mate. Nice one.
Thank you, guys. Cheers.
Take care. Guys, just very quickly, a couple of super chats.
Can I just say Alisson as well, Grizz? How good was Alisson yesterday? Can we just I just wanted to make that point. We don't have to go into it, but I just thought, what a keeper.
Yeah, 100%, mate.
I mean, what was the positives? The positives, see, the thing is, I mean, Bobby Firmino, I thought he was rubbish. I'm sorry, guys. I thought he was rubbish. But both his finishes were class.
Yeah, if you watch the highlights, it's like, but then you can't put him down too much when he scores 2 goals like that. But to be fair, like, if someone said at the start of the season, Jota, Nunes, obviously there's context with both of them, Jota, Nunes, Salah, Diaz, and Bobby Firmino, your probably last choice forward, has scored the most goals. No one would have believed you at the start of the season.
No one would have believed you. It's an absolute wild and mad situation to be in. Messi FC sends in a super chat. Says, Klopp will never change his tactics. His football identity is plastered all over AXA training ground. He just isn't flexible. It ain't happening at all. If Klopp doesn't... See, Steve made a very good point in terms of this is his biggest drop, and I tweeted it this morning. And I've tweeted it a few times this season, or maybe at the start of the season. And some people, of course, like it, and some people don't like it. It is what it is. But I've suggested this is Klopp's biggest job of his life. And what I meant by that was, and sort of in terms of, if he wants to be revered as the elite of coaches, in terms of the Bob Paisleys, the Bill Shankleys, the Fergusons, the Mourinhos, even. You have to have a legacy of rebuilding a great team. He's without doubt made the greatest Liverpool team that I can remember. He now has the job of making the second coming of this great team. And it's somewhat of an unknown quantity, lads. As much as we love him and we laud him and we absolutely know he's the best man for the job, I don't know about you, I'll get your very quick opinions on it. I can't sit here with any great, certainty. I can have confidence ranging from I'm very confident to I'm not sure, but I can't have absolute certainty that he will make a success of the rebuild of this Liverpool. But I definitely will end with saying, for my part, that he's most certainly the right man, in my opinion.
I agree. There are no certainties in life for anything, really, are there? And that would include one man's capacity to dismantle certain elements of his football team and replace them. There's nothing that says that can work, and you need an element of luck with that. But he needs to be more ruthless. He's too loyal to certain players. There's seen a couple of references, including from yourself, Grizz, that there are similarities between Klopp and how Wenger sometimes stuck with the old guard. I think the argument against that would be Real Madrid have had the same centre midfield, the same back four, the same front line for what seems to be forever, and it doesn't have an impact on them and it doesn't change anything. But they've got just a different mentality when it comes to the competition. They keep winning that revitalises that team year in, year out, and the fans are happy to go again with them. English football isn't La Liga. English football is a blood and thunder for 90 minutes, and we've reached in and taken every ounce of everything some of those players have had to offer. And you do have to look at it, and you do have to consider burnout. You do have to look at it and think, what's left in the tank? And I'm talking, you can give someone a month off, but they don't recover because actually there's nothing left to take from them. Because to challenge Manchester City, you have to find perfection to challenge Manchester City. Let's be realistic about it. And we've been twice 90-plus points and pushed them all away without, on more than one occasion, getting the end product. And it's hard to reinvent yourself and go again and use adversity to say, actually, boys, we'll be 10% better, like we did when we won the title, because the year before we got 97 points, and we'll do what we did the following season. We'll go again. At some point, when you keep asking people to go again, the response and the effort you get from them reduces, because some of these guys are absolutely worn out. And I know we were sitting here going, but we had 2 weeks off because of the Queen, and then we had 2 weeks off because of the international break. Total different kettle of fish. Mental fatigue is the hardest thing to get through. Mental fatigue can run deep in players. I think some of the squad are past the point where they're at their peak powers. Physically and mentally, they're spent, because we've asked so much of them. We went and won the league by 20-odd points doing double training sessions every day. There's a trade-off at some point for that. And I think we're seeing that now with some of the players. And I think this is why now I will use the transfer window now, although I've dismissed that conversation today. That's when you take Graham Souness's advice and you go and strengthen from a position of strength rather than as a sort of a reactionary thing to, oh, shit, we've got a problem. So we need to be in a position to take the best players from the best club in the world. We dine at the top table and we take food from other people's top table. If we don't get the desired end product at the end of this season, we'll not be dining at the top table when it comes to signing footballers. That's my biggest fear. The Jude Bellingham conversation, if we finish fifth and don't get Champions League, it's not a conversation for me.
Conroy, anything to add?
No, I think Steve summed it up really well. He spoke brilliantly there. What I would say as well, though, it's like, we keep saying all these things, but this is where he has to, as you say, it's a massive job, but like he has to, if I'm not saying this is the case, but say it is the players, maybe the players are like, this is not working and we kept getting told to do this. I just think if there's a bit of adaptability, if there's playing a free at the back, if there's, let's play more counter-attack this game, just so the players maybe can see as well, this is not working, let's try this. Because maybe Steve's right now, the point is they're hearing this message and it just feels like they've not got the capabilities to carry this out. And then, as you say, maybe that's what I mentioned earlier, that links into the comment about the press being off, people going individually, or flip that on its head, Salah going and no one following. I just think it's like, it is a mission right now, but we need to get top four. And listen, I'm not going to go, we're going to celebrate and get in top four, by no means. But it's important because, as you say, it keeps you going. When we fell out of the Champions League, it was very, very difficult to get back in. Thanks to Gini Wijnaldum's goal, I think, at home to Middlesbrough in the last day of the season. That was a big, big moment in our club's recent, success. And I think Steve's hits the nail on the head. By hook or by crook, you need to get in that Champions League. And he has to try something different. Like, there'll be a good win in between maybe 5 games the way we're going now, but there'll be teams like that who can pick us off. And to be fair, Brighton are a good team, but that was De Zerbi's first game, guys. And Potter's created a great team. But when I look at Brighton, it actually annoys me that he's maybe that's just because Potter's amazing. I think he is, but maybe Brighton are ran that well. Maybe Brighton are the best at finding talent that no one sees, and they can turn into brilliant players. But I look at McAllister, Trossard, even Pascal Gross, who wasn't particularly brilliant, but what he's done recently. I look at like their movement and tactical ingenuity of about like as players to mix it up. And sometimes I watch it and it just like I watch us every game and I'm just like, it's like we've ran out of ideas and other teams seem to be full of different ways of patterns of play. And that I find that very frustrating, I've got to be honest. But
Hurtful.
Yes, but it's not just Brighton. Other teams look like they train every week to score goals and they have patterns of plays. And I understand it's not just Trent, but I said it before, it gets very frustrating how much we rely on a 23-year-old to do most of our things. And I know we do other things, we do other styles, other patterns, but as of late, it's been very frustrating, and we are in a mess. I think we've just got to take it game by game right now. I don't mean to go on. We've obviously got Rangers coming during the week, which is a big game, but I get what Steve's saying, like top four is massive as well. You've got Arsenal away next weekend, and just to plug the channel, there'll be lots of previews and all that, but I'm telling you right now, we always flattered to deceive at the Emirates, have for years, never when we should. Now we're playing absolutely atrocious, and we're against a team who've probably got the signing in the season, Jesus. So it'll be interesting to hear your opinion on the build-up for that, Grizz, that show, Grizz, because that's probably the most fearful I've been for getting beat at the Emirates for a long time. Even when we've lost, when we won the league, say what you want, the league was won. It was a bit of a dead rubber. But now, these games are huge. And seeing what City done today is a reminder as well how they've not even got the first team and they can do that.
We'll cross the City bridge the following week.
But overall, just take it game by game. Grizz, what's your thoughts? What do you think we need to do? Because you're always hearing us and hosting it brilliantly. What do you think? Do you agree a free at the back, play a bit more counter-attack, just get the confidence back in the defence?
I done a call-in show yesterday. In fact, let's bring up this super chat and give a shout out to the guy who was one of the callers, Sam. He said, yo, Grizz, do you remember Sam from last night's call-in show? Last caller, love what you're doing. Keep it up. Hopefully I can come on the next show with you and Bilal. Love my bro. He was a fantastic caller, may I add as well. Thank you very much, Sam, for calling in yesterday. The reason why I brought that up relevant today is I didn't have a clue where to go, what to say, what to do next, Conway. Yesterday.
I watched it for 20 minutes because I had to go.
I didn't have
I'll let you take over, Bilal.
I just wanted an outsider's opinion, like Bilal, the Arsenal fan who helps me do the call-in show. I didn't know what to say, guys. Like, we've spoken to death all summer about the surprise elements, that we need to be different. We need to have variety. We need to have freshness. We implemented the freshness very minimally in terms of Nunes, in terms of Calvin Ramsey, who hasn't had a look in yet, in terms of Arthur Miller, who's not had a look in yet. So it was the minimal of freshness in terms of player, new ideas, new legs-wise. So that, as Steve and you guys have said, there's no point going over, because that to me was negligent from the owners, the club, the coaches, whoever. I don't care. I'm not here to defend one aspect or to label all of them. I'm here to speak about the collective, and the collective is Liverpool Football Club, has suffered as a result of negligence of the owners, the coaches, the players, or whoever, right? It's always a collective. Now, what we can do, though, as Steve said earlier as well, is deal with what we've got. And what we've got is players that shouldn't be 10 points behind Arsenal, or is it 11 points behind Arsenal, or sitting in 8th or 9th. At the moment, we've got a coach that shouldn't be coaching a team the way it's being coached, or looking like the way he's coached. We're a shadow of our former selves. The players are, the coaches, everything about us, it's a pale shadow of ourselves. And right now, only they can change all this, guys. We can discuss it to death and think, yeah, we should do this, we should do that. I'm not sure, like some of the people in the chat have said, I don't think he's going to change it. I genuinely don't think. And so therefore, we just have to watch and support and keep going until, I don't know, until when? Until when? We have to just keep going, though.
So
Steve?
I'll ask you to a question. Why won't he change it? Just very quickly, Conroy, why won't he change it?
We'll see change. Change is, I think, maybe the wrong word. I'd say adjust. That's what I mean. I understand you have a mantra, but I think recent years has showed you all these mantras who have a style or a philosophy. Like Pep Guardiola has changed his in-game management seasons about 4 times now.
Sorry,
sorry, Grizz, but what I mean is, like, there's lots of managers adjust. It doesn't mean they change their philosophy. So what I would say is I'm not asking him to change his philosophy. I'm just asking him to adapt. And by going to a back three or, playing more counter-attack for a few games, I don't think that's out of the question, because I don't think you have to change your philosophy to that. You just have to adapt certain tactics for game. So that's what I'd say. And I think he can do that. I do. I think something's going to give eventually. In the league games, it's getting copy and paste now. It's getting very predictable. And the 2 wins we have got, Bournemouth was an anomaly and Newcastle was an absolute last-minute winner. But it feels like every game we're relying on that now. You know what? That's not good enough. I always say momentum's important, but if you're got a challenge for a title, you can't just be relying on momentum. You have to have tactics and controlling games. Like, it's baffling to think that that's what we are right now.
I think going forward, guys, I think he's going to be. I think he's going to have to somehow give Nunes a continued run in the team now, going forward. I probably predict only a handful of changes every game now, like sort of Jota and Nunes may be changing, and then the centre backs changing. I don't think he's going to change anything else for the foreseeable future in this run of games up to the World Cup. That's just the way I look at it. I don't know if you guys think he's going to rotate. I think it's going to be maximum of 2 changes every game. One of the strikers, one of the centre-backs, and possibly Henderson and Elliott. Of course, yeah, that change that he did. I don't think he's going to do. I agree with Steve. I said about 2 weeks ago that we've got the personnel right now, the personnel that suits our system the best, in my, again, like Steve, layman, amateur opinion, is that 3-5-2 or 5-3-2, whichever way you want to look at it, or 5-2-3. And it could be devastatingly effective with the personnel on paper. But I think, guys, we're going to leave it here. We've got to wrap it up. We've come up to an hour and a half. I think it's been a fantastic show.
I got the chat, been brilliant as always.
The chat's been amazing as usual. Stuck with us. I'm still a bit unhappy with the ratio of likes. Smash the like on your way back. Some brilliant content and insight from the lads that have joined us earlier, Errol and Cav, and of course the wonderful Steve and the wonderful Conroy. Guys, on we go, right? There's nothing else we can do. We're not going to suddenly stop, are we?
That's the good thing about football. You've got another game very soon. That's the great thing about
the thing
football.
is, we ain't got no time.
Dust yourself down, go again.
No, but lads, do you remember after the last debacle of a performance or result against Everton?
When was that?
We had 3 weeks to do drafts and quizzes and get our mind off it. Well, we haven't got nothing now. We've got tomorrow.
No, Mick said earlier, I saw during the game yesterday, Mick Moran is always on. Mick went, can I have another 28-day break? As soon as Brighton went 2-0 up, which I thought was a fantastic tweet. But
it is what it is. We gotta brush ourselves down, as you guys said, and look forward to the Champions League on Tuesdays. Rangers at home. It's so vital. We pick up 6 points in the next 2 games against Rangers, and then we deal with the Premier League, which is probably 2 of the hardest games in Europe. I'll put it out there. It's probably 2 of the hardest games in Europe. Away to Arsenal, and is it away to Man City? Or home to Man City?
Off top of my head, mate, I couldn't tell you.
Thank you, But Grizz, on the spin of that, see if you can get a result against Arsenal, and you're going to talk about that. I'm not going to steal any thunder. That could be there could be something in that as well.
We're looking for pivotal signs so long. It's at home to City. Thank you very much, chat.
Thank God.
We're looking for pivotal signs. But I'm with you, Conroy. This is the most fearful of going to the Emirates or playing Arsenal in years. I can't remember being this fearful of going to Arsenal and not getting a win. I've always been so confident.
Yeah.
But hey, this Reds have they frustrate us and they get us angry. But my God, they've given us joy as well. Hopefully, it's more joy. Peace, love, tranquility to all watching and everyone that's joined us. Take care.